This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here he is, the host of the podcast, AWR Hawkins.
Welcome to Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart News podcast focused on guns, gun rights, the Second Amendment. You know, we sum these things up here each week under the banner of freedom. Always have, always will, and that's because an armed citizen is a free citizen. It's as simple as that. I want to begin this week in a slightly unorthodox fashion. It's because of a gun that I have been shooting that, to be honest with you, I'm so impressed with it, I can't get it out of my head. I can't get it off my mind. Let's put it that way. It's the Sig Sauer P365. So I've had Eric, Edward, I believe Cal asked me about it. I know Martine has asked me about it. Others out there have been emailing me and asking me about it. Let me just tell you, I don't know that I've started a podcast by talking about a particular gun before. I know that I've mentioned guns at the end of certain podcasts, but this gun has impressed me so much, I'm just going to start right out by talking about it. The 365 comes to me a little bit late, I'll be honest with you. The line to get one, I'm not criticizing SIG, but I worked with Bobby and Michael over there, and the line to get one was long. And by the time I've received this 365, I've read reviews where people have criticized this. People I've respected, they criticize this, the magazine, the trigger, the this, the that, the that. And so that I really didn't know what I was getting, and I would be thinking, why would a maker like SIG make a gun that would have these problems? So anyway, I get the gun, and here are my first and second impressions on the gun. Absolutely incredible trigger. Incredible. Absolutely deadly accurate. Deadly accurate. The sights are next level. The sights by themselves deserve a review. They're so good. The gun is unbelievably compact. Unbelievably compact. All right? And here's the weird thing about it. Here's what SIG has done. This is the genius aspect of this. Although so compact, the gun holds 11 rounds if you count the one in the chamber. And I'm always going to carry one in the chamber. So 10 in the magazine, one in the chamber, 11 rounds of 9mm carry. Again, you want my first and second impression of this gun? I'll be carrying this gun for concealed carry. I will carry this gun. It is absolutely incredible. It is smooth in its function. And you just can't believe, as I say, you cannot believe that a gun this small holds this many rounds. All right. Now, the gun is minimalistic in the way it's designed. And by that, I mean this. There are not, many external marks or levers or anything like that could get hung up when you're drawing the gun. This gun was designed with the concealed carrier in mind. All right. Now, I will say this, and I'm not being negative, and I'm not trying to not be negative. I'm trying to be honest, but I want to say this gun is so compact that if you have larger hands, and my hands are on the line between upper, medium, and small, large hands. I don't know how you define hands and such, but if you have large hands, you will want to get a extended magazine for your P365. Because if you don't, there's a good chance that part of your pinky will hang over the end. All right. And they make a 12-round magazine for the gun. And it adds about another half inch on the grip, and that's just about right. Now, here's the deal. If you get the 12-round mag, now you're carrying a gun that is ultra concealable. Ultra concealable. It has an incredible trigger. It has unbelievable sights. It is deadly accurate. And it holds 13 rounds of 9mm. I mean, anyway, I'm just throwing this out, folks. The gun, I giggled when I shot the gun. I giggled. You don't believe me? Go to my Instagram and watch. AWR _Hawkins. Go watch it. I shot it. First time, I didn't pull any tricks. I didn't shoot it. And then I said, okay, let's video it now that I know how it shoots. I didn't do that. I pulled it out of the box and I shot it 10 times, not even at a target, at a hillside. I shot it just to feel the trigger operate. Then I took the gun, I loaded 10 in it, I put a steel target up at 15 yards. I never missed. Never missed. The gun is incredible. That's all I'm going to say, folks. That's all I'm going to say. Now we're moving on. You remember the professor that shot himself at College of Southern Nevada? Shot himself in protest to Trump, or that's what the police said he said. Remember that? Wasn't that long ago I covered it. Shot himself in the arm with a .22. Well, if that story couldn't get any funnier, or if you thought it couldn't, and I didn't think it could, then hold on to your seats, because here you go. You ready? They found letters that the professor left behind that he had pre-distributed, so to speak. And in the letters, he says the real reason he shot himself was the world's malnutrition problem, pollution deaths, and AR-15s. I'm sorry, I can't not laugh. And I know that's a double negative, but there's no other way to say it. So malnutrition, pollution deaths, and AR-15s. For real? That's what he said. So anyway, now look, this guy didn't intend to kill himself, and he didn't. He shot himself with a .22, and he shot himself in the left forearm. And he explained that he did that because he's right-handed. So he didn't want to shoot himself in his good arm. See, so not only did he not want to kill himself, he didn't even want to shoot himself in the arm that he uses the most. So he shot himself in the left arm, and he said that he studied how to avoid hitting himself in an artery so he could be sure he didn't bleed out. This guy, hey, this is the kind of guy that's teaching your kids. In all seriousness. Folks, I know you know this, but some of you are new to the podcast, so maybe you don't. I have a BA, an MA, and a PhD. So I have a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate, right? BA is in history. MA is in American history with a focus on Navy in the Civil War, particularly the Southern Navy. And my PhD is focused on military history. Folks, I was taught by loons like this. I was taught by some folks who could go to the bathroom and shoot themselves, and I wouldn't be a bit shocked. I would be more shocked that they didn't shoot themselves in their good arm. These are the kinds of people teaching your kids, folks. Academia is off the chain. It's nuts. It's nuts. But anyway, just to be clear, the old boy wants us all to know that he didn't shoot himself because of Trump. He shot himself for an honorable reason. Malnutrition, pollution deaths, and AR-15. Anyway, I guess it's just how it goes. I mean, in academia, I don't know. You get in there and you're a little bit isolated. And I guess you go stir crazy. I don't know what happens, but that's it. It's also interesting to note that the old boy only bought 2 bullets because he said he didn't. Now, you figure this out. He only bought 2 bullets, said he didn't plan on shooting the gun more than once. Anyway, let's move on. This week, a man shot and killed 5 people in Bakersfield, California. Then he shot and killed himself. We don't count his death. He doesn't count. He'll never count. But the 5 innocents do. Now, California has universal background checks, a 10-day waiting period for gun purchases. They require would-be gun buyers to get a gun safety certificate from the state. They have gun registration requirements, confiscation laws, gun violence restraining orders. They limit you to 1 handgun purchase a month. They have an assault weapons ban. They have a ban on campus carry. They limit concealed carry for law-abiding citizens by requiring proof of good cause in order to carry. So on and on and on we can go. And They also have limitations on where you can buy ammo. You can only buy from an in-state dealer. That dealer has to be a state-approved vendor. And starting January 1, 2019, you're going to have to go through a point-of-sale background check in order to buy bullets. True. This is all true. And despite all of this, the guy shot and killed 5 people in Bakersfield Wednesday. He did so with a handgun, which, contrary to what the left says, is far and away the most popular weapon for crime, the most popular weapon for mass shooters. Far and away. It's not even close. Not even close. Nevertheless, the day after this shooting, Bill Clinton pops up, brags about the effectiveness of the 1994 to 2004 assault weapons ban, and calls for it to be re-implemented. 2 things here. Number 1, Bill is lying. I know that's not a shock. Number 1, he's lying. And number 2, he, like other Democrats, they have no understanding of how the assault weapons ban worked. None. Let me get into this a minute. It's very important. Folks, this is really important. Seriously, pay attention. Just kind of lean in there to your speaker. Number 1, the assault weapons ban did not reduce crime. Did not. Now, I know some of you say, well, that's your opinion, or, well, that's a big statement. Can you back it up? Well, sure I can. The assault weapons ban did not reduce crime. And to be honest with you, at the time that the ban expired in 2004, the Department of Justice's National Institute of Justice. So the Department of Justice, National Institute of Justice. In other words, a research wing for the Department of Justice released a study and said, look, this didn't do anything to reduce crime. I've got it quoted in my piece. You can go find my piece, Bill Clinton calling for assault weapons ban. You can read it with your own eyes. Department of Justice, National Institute for Justice. This ban didn't do anything. You can read it. And many other studies have shown the same thing. So that's why I say Bill Clinton lies. Again, that's no shock, but he lies. So the ban didn't do anything. But number 2, Bill Clinton signed the ban, and I can tell he doesn't even understand this. The ban did not ban AR-15s. The ban did not ban AR-15s. The ban did not ban AK-47s. The ban did not ban, on and on I can go, listing all of the so-called assault weapons. It did not ban them. It only banned cosmetic features on them. In other words, you could go to the retail store and buy you an AR-15 right smack dab in the middle of the ban, no problem. It's just that the AR-15 would have fixed sights, not removable sights. It would have a fixed rear stock, not a collapsible stock. It would not have a flash hider. Now, there's no way to show you something on this audio podcast, but I invite you to go to my Instagram, AWR_Hawkins. Go there. I posted a video of the Bushmaster AR-15 I purchased smack dab in the middle of the assault weapons ban. I posted a photo of it, still have the firearm. And guess what? It shoots just like any AR-15. It is an AR-15. But it has a fixed stock. It does not have a flash hider. And it has fixed sights. That's it. That's what the ban did. The so-called ban. It's all smoke and mirrors, like all Democrat games. It's trickery. It's just trickery. See, what Democrats do, and I got to be careful here because I don't want to insult any of you folks. What Democrats do, though, they do theater for the stupid, theater for the ignorant, theater for the low information folks. If you're easily tricked, then the Democrats are targeting you, right? But for those of you who are rational, who pay attention, that you see this, it's ridiculous. It was a ban that banned nothing. And it didn't reduce crime. Now, the one thing it did ban, it banned any new high-capacity, quote-unquote, magazines. Like more high-capacity magazines could not be put into the market. However, magazines that already existed were legal and could be sold. So what this means is the so-called assault weapons ban, high-capacity magazine ban, what it really did is it drove the price up. So it made the guns and the magazines cost prohibitive in many ways, but that's about it. And that was an indirect result of the ban. That was not because the ban raised the price. So anyway, you have Clinton out the day after a guy uses a handgun to kill 5 people. He's calling for an assault weapons ban. It's ignorant. It's misdirected. It's embarrassing. But guess what? It's what the Democrats do. All right. Now, look, folks, the Democrats are always holding up Europe as the example, right? It's Europe, the gun-free example. Europe is the place where that's the law that we need to mirror. We need to be more like them, right, as far as guns go. The left loves to point to Europe. They love to point to Australia. Well, guess what France is doing? France has formed a parliamentary commission to figure out ways to deal with the unbelievable rise in violence. And one of the recommendations is to arm every police officer, including municipal police. Municipal police are what we would call in America local police. You would think of municipal police as sheriff's department, those types of things. They want every police officer to carry a gun. Every police officer. Up till now, if you were municipal police, whether you carry it or not was up to your local mayor. Well, that won't happen anymore if this recommendation is adopted. You'll just carry. That will be the nature of your job. You will be armed. In other words, more good guys with guns. That's what France is pushing for. Folks, it's a universal answer to crime. It really is. A universal answer to crime is to be sure more good guys have guns. It's just it. Now, this does not fit the left's template. This does not fit their paradigm. This does not fit their political message. But guess what? It is the truth nonetheless. So there you go. Now, this brings me to a Vice magazine report this week that was so embarrassing, but it was so far out there, it bordered on comedic. I mean, I just laugh at them. I laugh at them. They have a certain author that keeps writing this garbage. I have no idea why they're letting him tank them. I'm not saying any of you turn to Vice for news and opinion anyway, but the magazine is losing any good reputation that it once possessed. It's losing it. All right. And here's why. They have an article out this week that says good guys with guns don't really exist. There's no such thing. And they go through studies to prove that good guys with guns don't exist. See, this is the problem with this, what they call gun violence research. These people are like the professor who shot himself in the bathroom because he wanted to send a message. These people are this out of touch. They come up with all these studies and they ignore reality. In reality, I pick and choose which story I'll write each day. And by that, I mean which self-defense story, because I have more than one. But I pick the one I think the readers would most enjoy. But it's every day. It's every day that someone is using a gun to protect themselves, their family, or their friends, or their coworkers. It's every day. Yet you have Vice magazine saying that good guys with guns don't really exist. Florida State University criminologist Gary Kleck, he introduced his findings in 1993. He has yet to be refuted with empirical evidence. Has not been refuted in 25 years. And his findings are clear. At least 760,000 defensive gun uses a year. At least 760,000. Now, what Vice does, because they're devoid of facts and evidence, they don't have anything else to do. Vice says, well, he counts some instances where people don't pull the trigger. In other words, In other words, Vice is saying that it's not a self-defense gun use unless you shoot. Why? Why? Who made that rule? Who made that rule? Why isn't it? If someone is about to attack a woman and the woman pulls a gun, the attacker sees the gun and flees, that is a self-defense gun use. I'm sorry, it is. It was the gun that made the attacker flee. I covered this week, and I'm not going to get into it in depth here. We'll cover it at the end. But there was someone who was trying to sexually assault a woman in a Walmart this week, and a concealed carry permit holder pulled a gun, and the attacker fled. Folks, that is a self-defense gun use. I don't care what Vice says. And that gun use is as legitimate as if the guy had pulled the trigger. And you know, you would think the left, of all people, the love everybody can't we get along bunch, you would think that they would like the idea that you pull a gun and you don't shoot and kill the guy. You'd think they'd be the ones applauding it. They'd be the ones saying, yeah, that's how you do it. That's actually the best self-defense gun use. But no, they're trying to say that doesn't count. And of course, the only reason they're trying to do that is because empirically, they can't disprove Professor Kleck. They can't. So they're trying to figure out a way to reject some of his 760,000 defensive handgun uses a year. That's all they're trying to do. It's just more devious stuff from the left. That's it. It's just Bill Clinton calling for an AR-15 ban following a handgun shooting. That's it. It's all the same thing. Look, this Vice magazine is the same magazine you'll remember last week that ran a story that said AR-15 owners should be forced, hear that word, forced to buy insurance to collectivize the risk of AR-15s, to collectivize the risk. Folks, real quick, I've probably mentioned this to you before, the Rockefeller Institute of Government. The Rockefeller Institute of Government did a great study. 50 years it spanned. 1966 to 2016 they studied, that 50-year period. They looked at mass shooters. Which guns did mass shooters prefer? That was the question. Very simple. And it's easy to find out. You look at all the shootings, you figure out which gun did they use the most. And guess what? Mass shooters used over 75% of the time. What? What weapon? Come on, you can say it. That's right. Handguns. Over 75% of the time. If you look at things in ratios, looking at their final numbers, mass shooters prefer handguns over 3-to-1 compared to assault weapons. So more than 3-to-1 mass shooters, more than 3-to-1, they prefer handguns over quote-unquote assault weapons. The Democrat Party is Looney Tune. They're completely Looney Tune. But they go after assault weapons because those are the low-hanging fruit. And they know if they get those, they can work their way back to handguns. That's why they do it. So don't be tricked. There is something at work here. They're not blindly pursuing assault weapons, but they're trying to find a way to ban guns in a way that opens the door for more gun bans. That's just how they work. So, you know, they're Democrats. What else do you expect? Folks, you're listening to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. We'll be back right after this.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlow.
Why did we see some of the Republican kissing of Mark Zuckerberg that was taking place?
I called it kissing the ring because I felt like every single person practically had to kiss the ring of this guy, you know, who wants to do nothing except get all those people out of office. So, you know, bizarre behavior from the Republicans.
Breitbart News Daily, weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Patriot 125.
This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here once again is AWR Hawkins.
Welcome back to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. We were talking in that first segment, I mentioned Clinton's push for an assault weapons ban. I mentioned the Vice magazine article, There Are No Good Guys with Guns, and their previous article, another just, very enlightening article about how we all ought to be forced to buy insurance to collectivize the risk of AR-15s. the Journal for the American Medical Association, they're also really showing their brilliance this week. They put out a study. Now, think about what I'm saying. Think about what they've said. It is shocking in its ignorance. They put out a study in which they said that semi-automatic rifles were banned from 1994 to 2004. Again, semi-automatic rifles were banned, they said. You got to laugh at these people, but at the same time, you've got to be frustrated because they're wide-reaching. That journal goes to a lot of people, and it's a lie. Semi-automatic rifles weren't banned 1994 to 2004. It wasn't a semi-automatic rifle ban. It was a quote-unquote assault weapons ban, and as I explained in the first segment, it didn't even ban assault weapons. These people, see what they do is they travel in circles with people who think exactly like them. And so they're repeating all their buddies' lies is what it is. And maybe they don't know their lies. I'm not saying that the Journal of American Medical Association, I'm not saying they're a bunch of liars. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying their buddies are. And they've believed their buddies. So, I mean, it just shows their ignorance. They need to stick to writing about things like kidney transplants, fighting lung disease, liver disease, whatever it is that they study medically. That's what they need to stick to, because they look stupid when they wander afield and talk about guns. Because there never was a semi-automatic rifle ban. Never was. And you think, well, they only said that once in the article. They didn't aim to say that. They meant to say, no, they say it over and over and over again. And they talk about how semi-automatic rifles were reintroduced to the public in 2004. Really? Again, go to my Instagram. Look at the video I put up of my rifle, purchased during the assault weapons ban. It is both a quote-unquote assault weapon and a semi-automatic. Well, how did that happen? That's strange. I thought those were banned. Folks, we had an angel dad, and you know what I mean by that, a father whose child was killed by an illegal immigrant. And the things he said were worth hearing. Dan Golvach, and if I'm mispronouncing his name, I mean no disrespect. Golvach. I took a little German in school, and so I say that CH hard. Dan Golvach. It doesn't mean I'm right. Could be Golvish. All right? But anyway, I'm going to go Golvach. Had a son who was killed by an illegal immigrant, and he was interviewed, and in the interview, he was asked what politicians could do in order to secure the safety of citizens. Again, this is a guy that has firsthand experience. He has a child that's not here anymore. Now, what would his answer be? What would your answer be? You think about it. What could the government do to ensure that kind of thing doesn't happen again? That a child is not killed by an illegal. He said first thing right out the chute, well, they could quit pushing gun control. Notice, not start pushing, but quit. Lay off the gun control, he said, and start pushing border security. He said if the border was secure, that would be the government protecting us. That would be the government protecting us if they would secure the border. Then he said, in lieu of government protection, what we have is an unalienable right to keep and bear arms. And that's how we protect ourselves. Folks, I can't think of a better answer. In other words, here's what the government could do if they were serious about protecting us. If they're not going to do that, here's what we can do to protect ourselves. Either way, gun control is the last thing they should be pushing. Either way. In other words, fix the border and keep your paws off my guns. That's it. Folks, and I got to be honest with you, this is Jeffersonian in the way it sounds. You know, that was Jefferson's agrarian dream. I know they don't teach that in school anymore. Professors are too busy shooting themselves in a campus bathroom, but Jefferson's agrarian dream was that Americans would live independent of the government. They'd have their farms. They'd have their produce. They would raise their food there. They would live independent. And guess what else they'd have? Firearms. Firearms. This was the agrarian dream. Of course, just in my describing it, you understand why the left can't teach that, right? Last thing the left wants you to get into your head is the idea that you don't need the government. The idea that you could wake up every day and go to bed without asking government permission to do something, that is the last thing they want you to think about. So I'm pretty sure that the agrarian dream has just kind of been set aside through the years, slowly but methodically set aside, and now they probably don't even mention the agrarian dream. They're too busy covering Karl Marx's contribution to the founding of the United States. I'm sure that's true. So I got a little afield there, but I was laughing. But I'm thinking about this angel dad, and again, thinking about what he said, and it is very Jeffersonian, that the solutions, the way the government could keep us safe is to do their job and secure that border. And until they'll do that, we'll keep ourselves safe with our guns. That sums him up. And I say kudos to him. He's spot on. Spot on. All right. Now, we had some good news out of California, which is very rare. I know you're out there, Lee. And I know you know that good news in California is rare. But we had a district judge strike down a advertising ban in California. In California, this is how dumb it's got. Right? And I know some of you who live in California. I'm not saying you're dumb. All right? I'm saying your leaders are dumb. Some of them are dumb as rocks. Right? They really are. I mean, to be honest with you, I just insulted rocks. That's how dumb some of them are. But you have a law on the books out there that if you own a gun store, you cannot advertise your handguns. I've got to laugh. You can't advertise your handguns. Not with colored illustrations. No, you can't. In other words, this would be like if I had a Ford dealership, right? I had a Ford dealership, and I got my new shipment of Ford F-150s, the 19 models. The 2019 models just came in. I would be banned from posting posters of those for you to see the differences between the 2019 and 2018. That's what this law does. This law tells gun store owners they can't put up pictures of their Smith & Wesson handguns, of their Glock handguns, of their H&K handguns. Well, some folks filed a suit. The Second Amendment Foundation supported it. The California Rifle and Pistol Association supported it. And they won. The judge said, hey, this is a violation of the First Amendment. Now, folks, I know that sounds like common sense to you. You're like, well, that makes sense. But it's California. You just don't expect it to go this good. This is great news. This is great news, okay? That's balanced out by some bad news. But it's, again, the left being the left. Michelle Obama is scheduled to go now to Chicago to sell books. That announcement was put out this week. Now, in Chicago, as you know, the body count is stacking up. Blood runs in the streets on the south side. In Chicago on the south side, if you're a kid, you can't ride your bicycle. You can't ride your bicycle in the late evening hours. You'll get shot riding your bicycle. You can't go to the park. You'll get shot at the park. A few weeks ago, we had an 11-year-old girl shot. Why? She was standing outside talking to somebody. Got shot. In August, I believe it was early August, we had over 70 people shot in one weekend. In a weekend! Things got so crazy that Rahm Emanuel actually said, hey, I'm not going to run for mayor again. I'm not going to run for a third term. And now you have Michelle Obama. While blood is running in the streets, while innocents are being gunned down, she's coming in to talk about her book, which is a fancy way of saying she's coming in to talk about herself. Because it's her memoir. It's about what, she says it's about what a little girl from the South Side was able to do with her life. Wasn't that special? Hey, Michelle, we've got people on the South Side getting gunned down right now because of the policies of your husband, because of the policies of Rahm Emanuel. And the Chicago that your policies helped build, your husband's policies, that is, I've noticed that's the Chicago you all didn't return to after you left the White House. Rather, you bought that big old house outside of D.C., and that's where you live. But she's going to kick off her book tour talking about herself in Chicago. Folks, there's something so repulsive about this that I cannot find the words for it, in all honesty. There's something so repulsive about this that I cannot find words for it. Folks, let me end this segment on a brighter note. In South Carolina, as Hurricane Florence was preparing to come to bear on them, Knuckleheads Bar and Grill. I'll never forget the name of it because the pictures of it made my day. Knuckleheads Bar and Grill. They put plywood over all the windows. And on the plywood in huge letters, they spray painted these words: looters will be shot. Let me say it again. Knuckleheads Bar and Grill, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Plywood all across the windows, and on the plywood in big letters, looters will be shot. Folks, that's it. See, we have firearms, folks, to protect our liberty, to protect our property. This is true. Private property, folks, is what James Madison had in mind when he would talk about the pursuit of happiness. All right? Now, I know Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence before any of you go nuts. He wrote the Declaration of Independence in a way that it captured the importance of private property. That is the pursuit of happiness. And so much of what we have as Americans revolves around protecting that property. Folks, private property is part of our independence from government. Again, it's part of that independence the left doesn't want you to know about. Private property was at the heart of Jefferson's agrarian dream. So, folks, I love seeing Knuckleheads Bar and Grill, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, put up those signs. Looters will be shot. You're listening to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. We'll be back right after this.
Breitbart News Tonight with Joel Pollack and Rebecca Mansour.
The real thing that the left is angry about is they're like, how could you allow these Russian memes? Somebody saw a meme and then they decided they had to vote for Trump. Or it must have been fake news. And by fake news, they mean conservative websites. Come on. But this is what the left thinks. Fake news. And by fake news, what they mean is shut down Breitbart.
Breitbart News Tonight. Weeknights starting at 9 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125.
This is Bullets with AWR Hawkins, a Breitbart.com podcast. Here once again is AWR Hawkins.
Welcome back to Bullets with AWR Hawkins. I want to wrap up, as I always do, by focusing on the Second Amendment in action. In other words, I'm going to talk about some of those stories about good guys with guns that Vice magazine says don't really exist. Some of those stories about citizens using guns for self-defense that Gabby Gifford's gun control group says is a myth. They say that those stories are mythical. Well, I'm going to discuss them because they happen. This week, there was a father who went into a barbershop to get his son. He left his 5-year-old daughter in the car. When he walked out, someone was trying to carjack the car. And father shot him to death. And then slipped into the car and guided it into a safe parking spot. And so his daughter wasn't hurt at all. But the carjacker he left the building. Let's put it that way. They zipped him up in one of those fancy bags and put a toe tag on him. Probably did that in reverse order. But anyway, that's that. And folks, this story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. Folks, we had another story this week. Excuse me. We had a woman at a Walmart. I hinted at this earlier, and I didn't get into detail. We had a woman at a Walmart, was approached by a teen with a knife. He pulled the knife and demanded that she have sex with him. She tried to talk him out of it, but he would have none of it. He wanted her to do one thing and one thing only. She managed to get the attention of another Walmart shopper. That shopper just so happened to have a concealed carry permit. And he came over, and anyway, when he came over and intervened, the teen fled. Folks, this story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. Folks, we had a U.S. veteran, Army veteran, who was ruled this week justified in shooting someone. He was attacked on his front porch, and the attack moved into his home. And anyway, he shot and killed the guy. He and the guy were wrestling. They fell to the ground. He shot the guy while he was on the ground. The guy died. The family of the man who died, of course, was going wild that he was shot. He didn't deserve it and this and that and so on and so forth. But the DA said sorry. The U.S. Army veteran was justified in what he did. Folks, there was a gang of people too. It wasn't just the one guy. If that veteran had not have had his gun, his daughter was asleep in the house, 9 years old. His wife was there. There is no telling what would have happened. But he did have the gun. And folks, this story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. We had a concealed carry permit holder in Cicero, Illinois, right outside Chicago. He saw an officer being shot. He intervened. The suspect fled, was being chased by another officer, was turning back, shooting at the officer. The concealed carry permit holder saw this happening, and he began to shoot at the suspect. Folks, the suspect was hit. The Cicero police chief praised the courage of the concealed carry permit holder, praised him. Folks, this story is brought to you by the Second Amendment. Folks, thanks for listening this week. I hope you enjoyed Bullets with AWR Hawkins. Get all your friends, your family members, your coworkers to subscribe and listen. And after people have listened a while, get them to go back to the main page of the podcast and give us reviews. We need all the 5-star reviews we can get. And until we're together again, folks, you keep in mind, more guns equal more freedom.
Breitbart News Daily with Alex Marlow.
Jeannie in Pennsylvania.
I think we've gotten away from what we really hired him to do, which is draining the swamp. If you look at the real picture of draining a swamp, you go in and you take all the water out of it. What does it leave? It leaves the gunk. He cannot get rid of the gunk. We have to get rid of the gunk. Everything he's doing, he's lowering the water so we can see who needs to go. The only way they can go is if we vote them out.
Breitbart News Daily, weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Patriot 125.